What's up, Knights of Vex, and welcome back to the channel where today we're going to talk about the best 5v5 Grand Arena teams for the month of February. And this will be the first time in a 5v5 format that we're using the new Datacron set with all the unaligned force users, the Rebels, the Imperial Troopers, the Tuskens. So it's going to be pretty interesting in 5v5. It was very effective in 3v3. We learned a ton of different things, a bunch of different synergies. We saw the resurgence of older teams that we haven't used in a while, like Iden and Imperial Troopers. Now we're getting some cool Rebel stuff that we can do. And it really split up teams in a certain way. And in this format, I tried to create some super teams because the map is getting so small in Kyber 1. And I'm starting to make these like kind of super lineups because you're not really using these, A tier teams as much anymore. So I'm trying to combine them all into an S tier kind of lineup. So I'm going to go over that all in the format for this video. If you guys haven't watched my previous 3v3 or 5v5 GAC videos format, I like to break them up into 3 different categories. I like to put a offensive standpoint, defensive standpoint, and a flex category. Where in the flex category, those teams can work either on offense and defense. Kind of depends on what your opponent sets on defense. If you do some scouting or you want to kind of play around with your certain maps, in that category you can kind of set those teams anywhere you want. But I do think that in the defensive offensive standpoint, you're going to find the best bang for your buck with those teams. So we're going to get into it, but before we do, if you guys do enjoy this content, you do want to support this channel, leave a like on the video, and hit that subscribe button, guys. Helps mount that algorithm, helps me grow, gets it very spread, and I appreciate it, guys, so thank you for all the support. But with that said, I'm going to start with the defensive category and see all the teams I made up for that. To start out the defensive category, guys, we obviously have to start with the brand new Galactic Legend, Ahsoka Tano, and she's going to be an absolute nightmare this season. Very strong, has an exclusive level 9 Datacron. If you pair her with Ezra with the Omicron, it's going to make the team even stronger. I recently took my Ezra up to Relic 9 because if you look at his mastery gains, he gains increased dodge chance, which makes it very annoying for your opponent. Not being able to hit him, he hits tremendously hard. If you have a Datacron that has armor penetration, you're going to see that Ezra, who's a support character, is nuking your team. I do think this will be your staple if you do have Ahsoka. You have Hoi Yang, with gives the mass assist and the damage immunity. Padawan Sabine for that huge damage ramping. And General Syndulla for that fracture. The only thing you have to keep an eye on for this team is that possible Magma Trooper cheese. I do believe it's RNG dependent, but if your opponent is able to get that to work, it might be a little tricky. But if your opponent does not have the Magma Trooper setup going, or they don't have it modded correctly, this team's going to be very tough to get through. You're going to need either Leia or possibly Sith Eternal and Bane. Or maybe when Darkseid Rey comes out, she'll be helpful in taking out Ahsoka in Grand Arena. But regardless, guys, Ahsoka's going to be a staple on defense, especially with Ezra on the team. Keep an eye out for it. Which leads us to the next pair of teams, guys. I'm kind of showing you 2 different options, that the ones that if you do have Ahsoka, and for players that don't have Ahsoka. So for the top one, this is going to be if you guys don't have Ahsoka. I recommend putting Rey with Ben, Cal Kestis, Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum, and Ezra. You pair that with Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum's level 9 Datacron with the unaligned force user like Critical Avoidance or the Term Eater, or even the Reset on a Kill. This team's going to be very strong. It might cause trouble for Malicos with Starkiller, especially if you're not able to crit them, guys. I did see reports that level 6 Datacron is bugged, but if it's working as intended, if you can't crit Rey and she's got Inspire, that's going to be a complete nightmare for your team. Cal Kestis is unique with that protection up, makes the team tanky, very strong. I do think that this would be one of the best Rey lineups for the season. Even though you're pulling your Cal from your Malicos, I still think you're going to be okay. So that is going to be my recommendation, guys. If you don't have Ahsoka Tano and you have Ezra, that's going to be your Rey lineup. And if you guys do have Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum, I recommend replacing your Ezra with Barriss Offee. Again, if you have the level 6 crit avoidance, it's going to be strong. But if your team does happen to get crit, you have that Barriss unique to help heal your team and keep them alive. She's got a cleanse. Barriss is very annoying in this team, especially in Territory War, guys. This is one of a very difficult team to get through. So this is what I'm going to be running with Rey personally on defense, and I highly recommend you guys do it as well. Which leads us to our next Galactic Legend, guys, and this one is a little bit of a throwback from the Leia Nuke team, or the Toxic Leia team, where I'm putting Han and Chewie in this team. And the reason why I'm doing that is because Han Solo has a level 9 Datacron where he has a revive, and if you have the level 6 armor, like the offense up and defense pen, Han Solo's going to be hitting pretty hard. I was testing this in Arena, and it's very difficult to get through. Possibly going to be taken out by Inquisitors, but I do think there is some RNG involved with that. Obviously, if your Han Solo is inflicted with Death Mark, he will not get revived. But I do think the team is going to hit very hard. If you have the light side maxed out the protection level 3, those stacking buffs on the 6, and then the Han Solo 9, this team can be pretty annoying to get through. So this is going to be the Leia team on defense that I recommend. I'm going to recommend a different team for Leia on offense as well. Specifically if your opponent has Galactic Legend Ahsoka. But if your opponent doesn't have it and you want to set Leia on defense, I think this team is going to be very strong, especially with the Han Solo level 9 Datacron. Keep that in mind. That leaves us to our next team, guys. Can't go wrong with Jabba. Jabba has always been a defensive staple Galactic Legend in this game. We still have that Mercenary level 6 for the Stone and the Retribution, which could shut down a lot of counters. I do think Embo is pretty strong because he can't get hit. Sometimes Boba Fett could be strong here, but I do like Embo better. He has a buff removal on his basic, which could really shut down certain counters if they do the targeting right. So if you bring in Lord Vader against Jabba and Jabba uses his Mass Cleanse and targets Maul, Embo's going to remove that Frenzy off that basic, which makes the counter pretty annoying. So keep that in mind, guys. This is going to be my Jabba recommendation on defense. Really strong. Then we're going to start getting into the non-GL stuff, guys. And Queen Amidala, absolute pain in the butt, guys. I was luckily found a different counter in 3v3 with Great Mothers. I am trying to plan on doing that again in 5v5 to see if it's effective in there as well. But regardless, I do think Queen Amidala is going to be an absolute staple for defense. I do like the Shock T and Echo lineup because I haven't used Bad Batch in 5v5 in a very long time. And I kind of want to create a kind of very good team with Queen. If you have a fast Shock T, it makes it very annoying as well. Very strong team. Queen Amidala is always going to be very strong on defense. I highly recommend you guys place her there as well. Which leads us to the next team, guys. And I'm putting Saw with Luthen, Kyle Katarn, Rex, and Cara Dune. And the reason why I'm putting Cara Dune here, guys, is because she is very effective at shutting down certain Empire counters. So if your opponent is bringing in Imperial Remnant or possibly Imperial Troopers to take out your Saw, she has a mass stun ability on her AoE with against Empire. So that could really shut down your opponent. If you guys don't have Cara Dune reliced up or leveled up, you can putting in Baze or maybe Scarif of a Pathfinder. But specifically for me, adding in Cara Dune shuts down a certain counter, which is what I want to do for my opponent. Kind of gets them guessing and thinking they might have to use a stronger team. So this is going to be my recommendation for Saw. We have a Rebel level 6. It's going to be really strong with the Riposte or even the buffs at level 6. Keep an eye on this team. It's going to be very strong. Then moving on, we have Resistance, guys. And Resistance is always one of those teams where you can't take lightly. And if you underestimate them, you're going to lose. And thank God they added a button for not preloading teams. Because if you preload a Zori Resistance team with the Omicron, you're going to get stuck. 100%. This team will stand the test of time. They used to be even more insane like a year or two ago, but they're still relevant in Kyber 1. I highly recommend you guys place them. If you guys have them available in the lower ends of Kyber, you're going to be doing insane, or even a Rhodium. But even in Kyber 1, you're going to see a Finn Resistance lineup on defense. They're still very strong. That leads to the next team, guys. Trench with Watt. Their viability has gone down a little bit, but I still think that you could throw off your opponent by throwing Trench on a front wall where they don't want to completely underestimate it, but they might do a overkill kind of thing against them. So if you throw Trench on the front wall with Watt and you have a Django level 9 where it's stripping banners, definitely very strong. And you have even the Mercenary level 6 for Django, so he can be hitting really hard. Do expect to see Trenches on defense this season. Going to be very strong. Then next up, guys, is going to be Tuskens, and I do think Tuskens are way better in 3v3 because of the Omicron, but they still can't be underestimated in 5v5. They have a very strong level 9 Datacron with the Tusken Chieftain, where he's giving Terminator to the team, and even the level 6. Tuskens are no joke. If you don't have certain counters for this against this lineup, you're going to be in serious, serious trouble. So you're going to see Tuskens on defense this season. Make sure you bring a efficient and good counter for offense to take them out, because they're very good on defense, guys. And that leads to the next team that I'm recommending, guys, and that's going to be Iden. I am putting Iden back on defense this season because of the Datacron that is for Imperial Troopers. And I do think that if you have the Snow Trooper level 9, that could shut down a Wampa solo. If you add in Shore Trooper and Storm Trooper, it makes it very tanky and hard to get through. Even Range Trooper with that protection up. Iden is really your damage dealer, but if you guys do have that Snow Trooper level 9 and the really good Imperial Trooper level 6 where either they deal 100% damage or the defense to offense conversion, it's going to be really strong this season. Highly recommended for defense. Expect a lot of these. And the last team that I'm recommending for defense, guys, is going to be Bosk Bounty Hunters with Dengar. I have seen a lot of people recommend putting Dengar with Afra, but I do think that is capable of being CLS'd. I do think Bounty Hunters with the Zam, Omicron, you throw in Grief Karga and Mando. I've lost to this team in 5v5. I tried doing Rogue One with it. It got killed. So this is a team you have to can't take lightly. You're going to see a lot of these, especially with that Dengar level 9. It's absolutely no joke. So that's going to be all of the defensive teams, guys. We're now going to move on to the offense and see what I came up with there. Moving on to offense, guys, the first team I'm going to recommend is this crazy Magma Trooper Cheese lineup with Veers and Shorty. You need certain modding for this, guys. I do think that you're going to be able to take out some Ahsokas if it's, it's got to be RNG dependent. I have had it work in Squad Arena. I don't know how much the Omicrons matter in GAC, but I do think if your Magma Trooper starts to get that turn meter loop going and he gets a turn, just spam those basics, you're going to take out Galactic Legend Ahsoka. So keep an eye on this team. If you guys have the level 5 Datacron for Magma Trooper, try it out on Arena if you can. Might be RNG dependent, so do not think this is going to be consistent. But if it does work, it's one less Galactic Legend down, and you didn't have to use any OP teams. So keep that in mind. And then I'm going to show you guys these next two. Obviously, Bane is going to be an absolute staple for offense. He's able to take out so many different teams. The reason why I have him paired with Sith Eternal is in case you want to use him against Galactic Legend Ahsoka. I did try testing this in one of my previous 5v5 seasons where I was 1 second away from taking out Ahsoka and I timed out. So if you bring in a high offense cron or even a high health cron for Bane, I do think you'll be able to take her out pretty well. Make sure you don't pop all too quickly. You stack your mastery on Sith Eternal, get that damage up, and you should be in pretty good shape. But besides that, if you don't feel like using them combined, you can even do Sith Eternal solo or even with Night Sisters and Old Daka, like Night Sister Zombie. You can get some pretty high banner wins here. He's got some good protection recovery, and Zombie can keep reviving and they keep killing her. So these are all very strong teams, guys. Keep them in mind. Bane, Sith Eternal, always going to be on offense, in my opinion, for the foreseeable future. And that leaves to these two guys. Now, guys, this is not going to be relevant for the first week of Grand Arena. I do think the second week is where we're going to start playing with Rey, or even the third week, if I remember correctly. But Supreme Leader Kylo and Darkside Rey on offense is going to be very strong. We saw some data mine footage of them doing some crazy duo. Like, they might be like the Sith Eternal Bane, Sith duo, whatever. But keep in mind that when this does come out, this is going to be pretty strong on offense. But for the time being, I do think the regular SLKR team with Hux, Sith Trooper, Crew, and First Order Officer, you can even put in First Order Stormtrooper if you want to save Crew for your Malicos team, going to be strong on offense. Can take out a Jabba, can take out a Leia if you add armor. Keep that in mind, guys. Kylo is always going to be good on offense. And guys, this is going to be my Leia variant for offense, where if your opponent has GL Ahsoka Tano, and you don't want to use your Sith Eternal or Bane combined, I do think that if you combine Radis and Jin with your Leia, this is going to be your safest Ahsoka Tano counter for GAC. So keep that in mind, guys. I'm probably going to try this out for the first week. If not, maybe try that Magma Trooper Cheese. I'm going to bring both just in case it gets stuck. But hopefully I don't have to fail on it the first time. But this will definitely be your GL Ahsoka counter if you don't get blown up. So keep that in mind. Next up is going to be Kenobi, guys. And as much as I love Kenobi as a GL, I do think he's very vulnerable on defense this season to Bo and to Reva. And I do not want my Kenobi, who's a very expensive GL, or like very, very top-end GL, to be taken out by a non-GL. So I plan on keeping my Kenobi on offense for the majority of the season, especially for the first week, and seeing how it does. But I just think that Kenobi has way too many vulnerabilities on defense to be put there. I'm recommending him for offense, and I highly recommend it for you guys as well. Next GL is going to be JML, guys, and JML has too many vulnerabilities again on defense. Can be taken out by a lot of different teams. I think that for the majority, very good on offense. He's got some protection recovery, has very good versatility with other Jedi. JML is going to be very strong on offense this season, and I highly recommend it for you guys. Then we have Starkiller, guys, and I'm going to keep the regular Starkiller team this season, unless they have some crazy Rey lineup where I have to combine Starkiller with Malicos. This is going to be my go-to Starkiller team for a majority of teams. We still have that Starkiller level 9. Really, really strong. He can be called to assist, dealing massive, massive damage. Palpatine and Mara Jade are there for the turn meter. removing buffs, inflicting shock. Old Ben is your tank, and Visas for that revive just in case you go down. Very strong team, guys. I do recommend them on offense over defense this season. Then next up, guys, I used to put Bo in the flex category, but now I'm highly recommending her for offense specifically. She is just so good at taking out so many teams. She can take out Lord Vader. She can take out Saw. She can sometimes... in my last 3v3 video, guys, she took out GL Ahsoka somehow. Very interesting. But the reason why I like her on offense is because she has very good banner recovery with OG Bo's unique. You're able to turn a 60 banner win into a 65 at the very end if you use that mass swarm. So Bo, as strong as she is as an epic confrontation, she's very strong on offense because of her capabilities of taking out a number of different teams, as well as her protection recovery. Banners is the name of the game. Then next up, guys, we have Aphra, and I like Aphra on offense. She has an Omicron in 5v5. I'm hoping that she's able to take out Jabba this season. I do throw in Darth Vader in there for that extra damage. If you don't want to use Darth Vader there, you could always throw in B2 Battle Droid for that buff dispel. It can be pretty helpful against certain lineups. But for the most part, I like using Darth Vader because he's fun to use and he has a ton of damage. And if you have that Zeta for Merciless Massacre, you're going to be taking a ton of different turns and you're going to get the enemy team at low as well. So it's going to be pretty strong on offense. Might be my go-to resistance counter, but very, very strong. Highly recommend it for you guys. And that is going to cover all of the offensive teams, guys. We're now going to get into the flex category where both options are available for offense and defense. So let's get into that right now. Okay, guys, the flex category is here, and this one is probably one of the bigger ones compared to the other two. But to start out this category, guys, we're going with the new epic confrontation character where a lot of players are going to have him now, and that's going to be Baylan Skull. And the two sides that I'm recommending with him are going to be Hondo and L337. Hondo has a GAC Omicron that makes it very annoying and difficult, and L3 is going to be that annoying tank where it cleanses the team and acts as a pre-taunter. So L3 is very strong in this lineup, and I do think that Baylan is going to be so important this season because of his GAC Omicron, where if there's a non-Galactic Legend Ahsoka on the enemy team, the mercenary team gains a bunch of different buffs and they can hit under protection. So my mentality is that if I don't decide to put Baylan on defense, I'm going after whatever team, depending if it's Rey or Leia, maybe Galactic Legend Ahsoka Tano. I'm bringing in my Baylan against the Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum level 9 because that is going to be a hard counter for them. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. Wherever you put your Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum, Baylan is probably going to eat that up for breakfast. So, but I do recommend this is the Baylan lineup you're going to want to go with. You guys have that Soldier of Fortune Stacks level 6 or even that exclusive Baylan level 9. You're going to be in really good shape, so keep that in mind for this season. Then the next team, guys, Great Mothers. And I originally had them on exclusively for defense because they're such a pain in the butt to get through. Especially if you have the two OP Night Troopers or Death Trooper for Pridia. Makes the team very hard to get through. And especially if you have that Terminator level 3. Really strong. But I'm putting them in the flex category specifically because I think they're going to be a secondary option to take out Queen Amidala if you don't want to use Bane. So I had great success for them in 3v3. I can't wait to try it out in 5v5. I hope it's the same. It should be easier, honestly, because you get even more size when Morgan gets that mass swarm. So I'm definitely going to try it out, guys. I'm going to be going back and forth with my Great Mothers on defense and offense. And I highly recommend it for you guys, too. They're such a strong team. That leaves the next one, guys, and that's going to be Lord Vader, the first GL in the flex category. And as much as I want Lord Vader to be a staple on defense, he has a lot of great use on offense as well. It's probably his best use is offense, but I'm giving a little hope for that Baylan, for that Piet level 9, where if your opponent plays the matchup wrong and they go for Piet as one of the last characters, he's going to revive the whole team and they're going to gain a bunch of different stats. So we're going to have to see. If your opponent does not take out Piet early enough, you're going to be in trouble. But if they do, maybe your Lord Vader team ramps high enough that you can take out their Bo-Katan or something like that. So we're going to have to play out and see. But that's why I'm putting Lord Vader in the flex category instead of the offensive defense. I do think that we'll find out a lot in that first week to see where he stands with the meta. But this is probably going to be your go-to lineup if you do use Lord Vader. And that leaves the next team, guys, Inquisitors. And again, Grand Inquisitor level 9 is absolutely disgusting. It's so strong. Inquisitors can take out so much on offense. They can take out Kenobi. They can take out Leia. They can take out Baylan. so much use on offense, but they also are going to be good on defense. Normally they are Phoenix food, but with that Grand Inquisitor level 9, you're going to run into tons of issues with timing out. That damage immunity can definitely cause issues. So keep that in mind if you're going to put Inquisitors on defense or offense. Really strong team. Then I have next, guys. This is going to be my variation of the Seer lineup, and it's not going to be as strong because I took out Cal and Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum, but I do think that it's still going to be a strong team that can take out a number of different teams. You don't necessarily need Cal to take out like a Saw team. So this is going to be like my kind of like a hybrid kind of thing. If you guys did feel like combining your Star Killer, you can get rid of Ninth Sister and add your Kylo there. But that's totally up to you. But I plan on keeping my Star Killer separate when I can. But if I have to, this will be my separate Malicos team. And I do think you're going to be able to take out a lot of other teams with this lineup. So keep that in mind. Then next up, guys, we have General Grievous with Stap. And if you have the Omicron, it's really strong. I've underestimated this in the past where I've lost with Kylo. If you have that Stap Omicron, do not take this team lightly. I do think that it is very susceptible to Imperial Remnant. You're going to see a lot of Imperial Remnants on defense this season. So keep that in mind, guys. Grievous is always going to be annoying, especially with this guy's Omicron. So keep that in mind. Then next up, guys, Darth Malgus with the Sith Empire sides. I would say Malgus was so good on defense at one point, and then Jedi Knight Cal Kestis came out, and it kind of ruined his viability, where we kept him on offense. But since this set has a tank revive, Malgus does have chances on defense again. So you can definitely catch up your opponent where you put a Malgus in the front, and they try to use Cal and they time out on you, or you force your opponent to use a Sith Eternal up front, and then they don't have a Sith Eternal for the back for your Ahsoka. So there's many different options, guys. You can really throw off your opponent with Malgus. No matter where you use him, absolutely going to find its use. So keep that in mind. Next up, guys, is Traya. And Traya is one of those teams where if you put this lineup on defense, you practically need a Galactic Legend to take it out. So you can really trick your opponent or force him to use something expensive against it. So if you put him on defense, you're going to have your opponent use something really pricey. But if you use them on offense, you can take out a bunch of different teams. Like, this is usually my go-to for Gungans or even Tuskens. So keep that in mind, guys. Traya is going to be good wherever you use her. Then next up is Gas, and I do like Gas probably more on defense this season because there is not a lot of banner recovery on the team, and they are annoying. But Gas is capable of taking out a lot on offense. He's another character that can take out Tuskens or other strong teams like Dash. So if you guys have a Gas 501st team, definitely use him somewhere. But I do think he's better on defense because of the banners. He's not good at banner recovery, and in Grand Arena, sometimes it's all about banners. So keep that in mind. Then we have Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, guys. And this is the lineup that I'm going with. I kind of put my other Imperial Remnant squad with the Death Trooper, Peridia, and Night Trooper with my Night Sisters. So I kind of made this kind of hybrid team here. It's like a super team. That Enoch Zeta prevents them from getting crit, which is really strong. Death Trooper is there for the damage. Moff Gideon is there for the control. Scout Trooper is there for the cleansing. And obviously Dark Trooper Moff Gideon is your tank. This team is really strong. You're going to see its use. There's an Imperial Trooper level 6. So these guys are going to hit really hard. So keep that in mind, guys. You're going to see a ton of these this season. Then we have Gungans, guys. And Gungans are in a weird situation where I would always recommend them for defense because they are so annoying to get through. They've cost me so many matchups. It cost me the matchup against Zerath, Jar Jar, Gungans at one point because of the level 9. And I lost with JML. So this is a team that will be annoying for the rest of the time. I can't stand them, but that doesn't mean that they're not good. They're extremely good. So if you put them on defense, your opponent's going to have to bring something expensive because they're not easy to get through. But on offense, I do think they have a lot of capabilities of taking out other teams. Like, they could probably take out Inquisitors. I've seen the videos of them taking out Reva. They could probably take out Balin, but it's high RNG dependent. So it's all dependent on where you guys want to use them. I do think, for me personally, you're going to see them on defense, but they will have its use on offense. Then, guys, we have a Rogue One team, and I do think this will be your go-to counter for, like, certain lineups against the Imperial Troopers. But keep in mind that if they have Grit, your exposed damage is not going to do nearly as much because of the reduced damage per percent max health effects. But if your opponent doesn't have it, they have like that offense to defense conversion. We do have a Rebel level 6, so that it will benefit them. Rogue One will be a very strong team against those Empire lineups, so keep that handy for you. And you're going to see a lot of them this season. Then the last team I'm recommending, guys, for Flex is Omicron, Qui-Gon Jinn. And I'm putting Keller and Beck with Mace in there. It makes it kind of like a super team. Previously, a couple seasons ago, Keller and Beck would work with Eth Koff. But Keller and Beck is just not doing nearly as much as he used to in the lead. So I'm recommending putting him as a side under a Omicron Qui-Gon Jinn team. And Mace just makes the team even stronger. Anakin and Ki-Adi-Mundi are very strong. Bad Batch is not going to be able to get through this very easily. So if you guys do have this, I highly recommend you use it. And that is going to wrap up the 5v5 teams for Grand Arena in the month of February, guys. I hope you found a couple teams that are useful. If you did, leave your thoughts down below. Always like that video if you enjoyed it. And if you're not already, subscribe to the channel to become a Knight of X. And I'll see you guys in the first round of Grand Arena. May the Force be with you all.